I've always had a good relationship with my wife. She's always been attentive and sweet, and I've always done my best to meet her and my own standards. We both maintain open and healthy communication as well. Unfortunately, things went downhill since the moment she got a new job. Her friends were always texting her, and she'd been enjoying the attention she'd been receiving. I obviously had no problem with this, but lately something had been nagging at the back of my mind. Things started to go seriously down the drain when she started traveling for her work. She told me she'd call me every night, but she stopped doing so after several days. It was always working in my mind how this type of story started, but I decided I was being paranoid and decided to let it slide. Once she got back from her trip, I felt she was strangely affectionate. She'd be saying stuff like, "I love you and nobody else could ever change that," or "Never forget how much I treasure you in my heart," etc. Pretty damn lovely, but I knew something was off. Sure, we were affectionate and all, but we weren't ever much about words. We were more about actions. She was telling me everything I wanted to hear, but I'm not a fool. I noticed how she kept replying to my messages and kept getting more and more messages as well. I decided to talk to her again. Again, we were completely open with each other. So this was supposed to be a 15-minute conversation that ended with a, "Sorry, I won't do that anymore." Turned out to be a 50-minute conversation with her going, "Why are you so insecure about yourself? Are you implying you don't trust me?" I felt guilty and responsible. I thought I was just being paranoid. Fast forward a few days later, right after she'd gotten out from work. I suggested I should pick her up, something I usually do on Friday nights. She said she was busy and was going to arrive late because she's going to be very busy with work. She told me she wasn't even going to be home that night, maybe early in the morning. I decided to go anyway. Right as I was pulling the car over, I saw her getting into a car, smiling. I looked closer and saw it was a guy behind the wheel. It was past 6 p.m. and she clearly wasn't working the extra hours. I tried to call her, but she didn't answer. I just felt empty. I felt a void in my heart. I wanted to try and forget and erase everything that my eyes had witnessed, but I knew that wasn't going to get me anywhere. I followed him and saw her going into his apartment. I went home and contacted my best friend and wept like a pathetic loser. The following day, my best friend came over early in the morning. We packed my wife's stuff in a couple of used and new duffel bags. She sauntered in at about noon with her BS and was startled when she saw the packed bags. I confronted her, and after I was done with my whole thing, she started crying. She said she didn't want to live anymore. She said she felt so bad she didn't even know what to do to make up for everything. I told her I wanted her to leave the house as soon as possible. She looked me dead in the eye and said the house wasn't just mine. She said she wouldn't have done anything if I were more present. Just as a reminder, she was the one prioritizing job over our partnership. I told her calmly I wouldn't argue any further and reminded her that she can always stay with the AP. Clearly, she started saying it wasn't fair. We had a fight and she ended up leaving when she realized she was outnumbered. I'm sure she went to that guy's apartment once again because of the messages I saw come into her phone. She left saying horrible things, but I'm sure she must already be eating her words by now. I've already contacted her family and told them of what happened. They are really unhappy with her, and I heard her father-in-law paid a visit to the AP's place, though I have no idea how the encounter went. I'll soon be filing for divorce, and I know it'd be a clusterfuck. The only thing I'm grateful for is having found out about this sooner than later. Any advice would be really appreciated. Update. It's finally done. Today, I witnessed my ex-wife in court for what I hope will be the final time in my life. From this point forward, we'll be living our separate lives and we'll never cross paths again. She's still with AP and living at his place. She has nowhere to go. Her parents are mad at her. She never had a lot of close friends, and her work friends from the new place have disappeared. She looked miserable today in court, and after I came out, her parents came and congratulated me. Right in front of her. I'm genuinely struggling to come to terms with it all and find myself torn between sadness and elation. I'm just struggling with the uncertainty of my future. How do individuals manage to find love again after experiencing infidelity? I can't even imagine being committed to a woman again, much less getting married. I know it's not an exciting post at all. It's just my current feelings and thoughts I needed to express. Advice? Story 2. I just don't understand cheating. Hello, folks. I've recently found this sub and unfortunately have reason to post. I'm at the start of this process and I'm very grateful to several of the posts I've read. Thank you for helping to keep me grounded and possibly a little more sane. After 15 years of marriage, my wife has decided to tell me she does not want to be married to me anymore. And then she says she's already been seeing someone else. I asked and she confirmed that she'd been sleeping with him. So I moved out and have sought legal advice. All the normal stuff, I guess. My initial reaction was to state that I would like to take 1/3 of the value of the house and that she has to pay for the cheap and easy legal paperwork. I have since come to my senses and realized that I was making this demand based on emotion and I was being nice. I've changed my mind and now want at least half, which I've been advised is the least I am entitled to considering the length of marriage and the fact that I have a much lower income. I understand that people fall out of love and maybe our marriage had run its course. Throughout our years, I have recovered from alcoholism. We had a few failed IVF attempts, and we always said that we had to be honest and do our best to work through any issues we had. She has apparently not been able to get over the past, and also refused to try to change some of her behaviors, which I found annoying. I always tried to talk to her about my feelings and was always told, "You take yourself too seriously." She would state that I had to accept her for who she was, and it was not fair for me to expect her to change. This goes against everything I'd been learning about acceptance and self-confidence in recovery, which is all meant to be stuff for me to be able to get along with the world. I know that, but why did she not ever have to take me seriously and try to grow as a person? Anyway, I thought I was getting paranoid for the last couple months before she told me. We were getting along, and I thought we were in a happy, loving marriage. I don't understand how she can justify cheating by saying that the marriage was broken for a couple years. The only time she said anything that made me worry was when she came home drunk, which was not a regular occurrence. She talked about us not having enough sex and that she was getting attention from other men. But then when I would ask her about these statements the next day, she would deny that she was getting this attention and divert the conversation. She would occasionally ask if I wanted to get divorced, but when I said no, she would not be honest and continue the conversation. I freely admit that I can be oblivious, and I probably should have paid more attention to these signs. I admit that I was content in life and probably was taking her for granted, but it still hurts like fuck and is damn confusing. So I left with my clothes, my chair, my motorcycle, and the TV. I have filed for the divorce petition and I'm doing all the legal stuff to make sure I can have a chance to get a deposit for a mortgage. Here in the UK, property is damn expensive. I have accepted that it is time for me to start the next stage of my life, and I'll be doing this alone. We made it a long time together. Too bad she had to sleep with someone else before telling me she was not happy. If you made it through all that, thanks for paying attention. I do have several friends that are helping. I have a decent job as a teacher at a local college, and I am aware things will eventually be okay again. I just realized recently that I've never actually lived alone, and this is strange. Not bad, just very different. In reality, cheaters tend to follow a similar pattern. It's never their own fault, it's their spouse's. They're always the victims. They're never accountable. They're unfortunate to be unhappy in their marriage. They develop a victim complex to justify straying. They believe their situation is hopeless. The AP is incredible and all the strange details like their age or appearance don't matter. Bringing these things up is just a way to deflect, to lessen the guilt, and to generally be a terrible individual. Don't bother trying to understand what she did. There's no reasonable cause for cheating whatsoever. All that matters is that you did not cause this. This is entirely her fault, no matter whatever the hell she's yapping about. Now for some comments. We want to be wanted by our partners. I cheated because my husband was a porn addict and consistently chose to look at porn or just wank instead of being with me. I would cry about this in front of him to no avail. Cheating gave me back my sense of worth and made me realize I am an attractive woman. And then I left. Not to be with my AP, who will never leave his own sexless marriage, but so hopefully one day I'll find a man who loves and wants me and doesn't neglect me for porn. It's not always so black and white. I think some women think if they have an affair, it'll fill in the missing pieces and they can stay married. Some women think they're unhappy and they don't know why and try to find things to make them feel happy without meaning to ruin what they have. It sounds like communication was lacking in your marriage, and it's too bad you couldn't talk about the issues before they became too big to solve. Wow, such a heated argument because someone thinks cheaters, men do it too, should be held accountable and possibly punished for their actions. I agree they should be punished. They broke a promise, a commitment, and get this, depending on where you live, the law. Of course, no one's arrested for this, and it's rather difficult to prove, etc. But yes, they should be punished for making the choice to lie, deceive, and betray their loved one. I get that feeling of wanting justice. He was used and now is left to pick up the pieces of his life alone. Going through something similar right now, and it royally sucks that they get to just move on with someone else. Meanwhile, you're like, what the fuck just happened to my life? I hope you find peace and a really good lawyer. Good luck.